You guys should try it out if you like money. This guy knows ball. My biggest winning day was 60K in a day. GM is known to be, as an example, the dumbest sports book in the world. You're definitely a trader. There we go. Once you start to break down the math, it's like they're kind of printing over here. I hadn't really been back on campus, so I'm excited to be here and to get to teach a cool course, because I tried to do, it took me a long time to like figure out what I wanted, I don't know, to do with my career. I always liked sports, so I think like getting back into the industry is cool. Yeah, so I'm gonna be talking a little bit about sports data. Again, I'm gonna keep it open-ended. If we wanna talk about gambling strategies, we can talk about gambling strategies. But has anyone heard of Kalshi or Polymarket? Yeah, obviously I would say like a lot, PrizePicks was just bought for $4 billion. Like I feel like sports and gambling versus trading has really kind of taken off recently. It's a great space to like work in and build in. It's also, especially in gaming, I mean, it's changing now a little bit, but there's not a lot of competition. At least that's what I thought and noticed. There's not a lot of, you know, maybe really technical Stanford kids who wanted to get into sports, at least when I was graduating, which means there's a lot of opportunity. So like I showed this earlier, ESPN like has always been kind of the #1 sports app. This is Real Sports, and this is my friend's company. And basically like they just crossed 1 million DAUs and barely any funding, which is pretty impressive with just basically a nicer layout. I mean, they're not doing anything complicated, right? There's not like some crazy analytics. There's not some crazy analytics or anything like that. It's just data, real-time data and presentation. And I feel like that's what most people care about. That's what most gamblers care about. That's what most sports fans care about. Why did you like Real? Like, what made you decide to sign up versus continuing to use like ESPN or whatever?
Just go on Google and NBA and look at the games. It was just like a hassle with Real. Like, all the games are right there. It was just really convenient.
Yeah. That makes sense. I also think like, you know, there's some new, like for the UFC, gambling was huge. What's up?
I also use Real. I think a lot of like why I use Real because like all the people in there reacting is pretty funny.
Yeah. So it definitely makes sports more fun in my opinion, and it's clean, it's easy. I'm very surprised only 2 people in a sports class have heard of this app, but like, you know, like I was talking to the founder about, we went to the Duke UNC game, which is crazy if you like college basketball. We beat UNC, by the way, at Stanford. But, and basically he was just like, yeah, I mean, sometimes the problem isn't that big, right? It's just like there was no good way to like see data presented and like engage with other sports fans. They solved a very simple problem. And I mean, obviously I think kind of the results speak for itself. They have a ton of users. But I guess like, just a quick, well, I want to see, anyone here watch football? Okay, a lot of people. What percentage of games do you think end by a margin of 3 points versus 2 points? What do you think the differential is? NFL games or college football games that end by a differential of 3 points versus 2 points? Whoever's the closest, I'll give you $20 to like think of an answer.
Like difference in percentage.
But you can't look it up. Yeah, so like what percentage of NFL games end by a team wins by 2 versus 3? What is that differential? It kind of relates to sports betting, which I'll get into.
Maybe like 60%.
Wait, sorry. What? No, I'm saying like, okay, so let's say 50% of NFL games or 10% of NFL games end by 4 points, and like by 18 points is maybe like 2%. It's like a differential of 5. What do you think that is for NFL for 2 points versus 3 points?
4%.
Okay, so you got it right. So I owe you $20. Good job. There we go. Bro, this guy knows ball. But like, I think like, the reason it's like interesting, the reason I think it's like, but anyways, what I was saying is like the reason it's like related to gambling and interesting for gambling is like, you know, I don't know, like one of the first betting strategies I learned when I worked at this company called Susquehanna is like, you know, when you're betting on sports, if you can maybe like hedge, right? There's a big difference between a 2.5 and a 3.5 point spread, right? Depending on the prices, the odds you're getting, whatever. You guys know Kalshi and Poly market is like, depending on the prices, if you could get like Rams -2.5, Eagles +3.5, and you pay a little bit of juice, it could still be an extremely profitable bet because, again, 15% of NFL games, you knew the answer, which is 10% more than, and by 3 points, not 2 points. Like here, it's not as relevant. So I think like there's a lot of interesting things with regards to gambling that once you start to bet on sports a lot, really get into the data are like interesting. It's like, okay, if you can get a 2.5 spread on one book, a 3.5 on another book, like what prices do you have to be getting where maybe it's like worth it? But yeah, good answer. So I'll keep this a little more open-ended, but I started a sports and data company. It was called OddsJam, and I would say like we just kind of took all the data and like combined it, which seems like a very trivial problem, but like sports books list things very different and there wasn't a good data source. So like LeBron, 25 plus points versus L. James over 24.5. It's like all that stuff has to be synchronized. And it may not seem like a big deal, but it's actually like a huge deal because there's a lot of companies, a lot of media companies who make money sending, traffic to sports books and they want to like show the odds. So like we were a B2B and B2C brand. I would say my first job, I was a trader. We kind of wanted to be, what?
I don't think it's working.
It's okay. I'm just talking. We wanted to be like the Bloomberg terminal of sports. We wanted to have all the data. We wanted it to be fast. We wanted to have it in an API form as well as maybe different tools that like people wanted. So long story short, we're going to talk about, I guess, gambling, the math behind gambling. And then if people get bored or not as interested, we can talk more about maybe starting a business, although he may be a better source of truth for that. But anyways, like I think when I started sports betting, probably similar to a lot of you guys, if you bet on sports, I mean, you bet on sports, where do most of you get your bets from? I'm curious. Twitter, YouTube, you think of them yourself? What?
Think of yourself.
You think of them yourself? Do you have a sport you focus on?
Football.
What sports book? What's the main one you use here?
Kalshi.
Okay. But anyways, so that was kind of the company that I started. And I guess, yeah, we'll talk about a bunch of things and we'll see what's kind of most interesting to people. But I studied MCS at Stanford, which I don't think is a major anymore. They replaced it with data science. But like when I was in college, I always liked sports, but I didn't maybe necessarily know what I wanted to do, but I liked gambling. So I ended up working at this company called Susquehanna. Has anyone heard of it? Has anyone interned there or want to intern there? Maybe? Yeah. So like, I mean, I always got the advice when I was at Stanford, like you want to work with people who actually invest time into you and like teach you a lot of things, which I think like SIG does a good job of. And what really got me is my friend interned there and he said you got to play poker all day long. So I took a job at SIG because I was like, wow, this is crazy. Pay you like $300,000 graduating from college to play poker all day long. And obviously that's not exactly what it is, but it's very interesting because really what I learned at SIG, and they're very hands-on, you don't actually make a trade for like your first maybe 2 years working there. You're just like trained, you're playing poker. And I was really excited to play poker, but the thing is everything's a test. So basically like if you fold, they'll ask you, why did you fold? Right? If you raise, why did you raise? Why did you decide to raise this much? And I think like what I learned, which we're gonna get back to sports, but like what I learned is like you have to like get good at making maybe decisions when you don't have perfect information, and that's really important for trading, and that's really important for sports betting. Is like decisions doesn't necessarily mean outcomes, and by that I mean like we could go get a drink after all of us, and like we could drive and we could get there safely, or we could Uber and get in a car accident, which is like good decision doesn't equal good outcome, and like you have to be longer term focused. So we're gonna get to gambling in a sec, but what's also cool about Susquehanna is they have a sports betting desk, which I wanted to work on. Unfortunately, maybe fortunately, who knows, I didn't get slotted there. I ended up as an options trader, but for a year before I quit. But like very hands-on, focused on education. So I think like in terms of career, if anyone likes sports, great company to work at. If you like trading or you like gambling or data, like in my opinion, like it's crazy good education that you're gonna get in the first year and a half. And it's definitely a very interesting place to work at. But I guess what I learned at SIG too is like all these things are related, because I used to tell my dad like, yo, Dad, I played poker at work for 3 hours today. And he'd be like, wait, why? And again, I think it's like, it's a good muscle to flex, is like, how do you think about things in terms of numbers and make decisions when it's not always clear, which is basically every decision in life and in your career, is you don't always exactly know what's the best move. And so at SIG, I started to pick up poker. I also started to pick up sports betting. Everyone at the company bet on sports, but the nice thing about SIG is, again, like when you're working for smart people, who you admire, is you don't view it as completely degenerate, but you view it as like, which I would say is the same with poker. Like I always thought like gambling bad when I was in college, but I think like once I started to play poker, and then I'd play poker on the weekends for fun, and we'd go to the casino, all the SIG guys take everyone's money, was like, wow, you can actually make money gambling, like trading, gambling, Kalshi, poly market, sports betting. Like there are exploitable edges, not in roulette, not in slots, but like in trading. There's obviously a ton of people who have made a ton of money in the financial world in trading, and same thing with poker. And it's very similar in sports betting, which is kind of how I started sports betting. So I think like, I don't know, maybe it's interesting, maybe it's not, but like, if you think about like, does anyone know how companies like SIG make money? Like, how is their founder worth $60 billion? Like, what is their main business model? Can anyone explain it?
It's like market making, so being on the best bid and best ask and trying to capture spread that way.
Exactly. So the way they make money is they try to offer markets and let all the degenerates on Robinhood who try to like trade options or stocks, they do the gambling, and SIG is just the house. They try to like roughly balance flow without getting completely run over, because again, nobody knows. You don't know. Like when I was a trader, there were times I was trading during COVID, there were times you'd get completely like run over. Like I was trading airlines, like airline ETFs. There's one called Jets, which is a very cool name, but like you don't want to be too short Jets, which I was, and then have COVID happen, because then like airlines went crazy, right? And they like went down a lot. So you also need to think about risk management, and is there something you're not pricing in? You don't just want to be like, this is worth $5, so I'm going to keep buying it for $4.90 and $5.10. You need to think about like, what is the market telling me? And a lot of that you can do just by like, who are your counterparties? Like we put a lot of weight at SIG into who are we trading against. So like if Citadel's trading against us, like a top hedge fund, we're gonna view that order differently than whatever, like some guy on Robinhood or somebody on Wall Street Bets who's like posting about something, and then a bunch of orders start to come in. Like we call that non-toxic flow or like easy money. Whereas like what we called, if you're getting larger orders from institutional players, there may be information in the orders. Like these markets are dynamic, so you need to like constantly be adjusting, your like fair value. So I mean, is this too basic? Does this make sense? Yeah, okay. So like, I guess like if I have something I think is worth like $1, and I think like this taught me a lot about like business and then also sports betting, because everyone at SIG, like if I think something is worth $1, right? Then like what would a good market be? You know, did you work in finance?
I did an internship
At where?
at
Where?
Citadel Securities.
You going back?
That's the plan, yeah.
Cool. So you know all this.
Some
Are you a quant or a trader?
trader.
Very cool. Awesome. Give me a market.
90 at 110.
Exactly. So like the optimal thing for a market maker, the way this guy's going to get paid a ton of money is ideally he can just like, you know, buy it for 90 cents when people want to sell and then just like sell it at 110 and just profit the 20-cent spread. And that's the whole business model. But obviously too, there's like, you know, it's a business, you need to treat your clients right. Like if Susquehanna is offering 95 cents at 105 or something, then like, you know, no one's gonna wanna trade with Citadel because you're too wide and you're offering crappy prices and people will recognize that. So there's kind of like these interesting forces that happen in markets where like you wanna maximize and make as much money as possible, but you also really have to do well by the client and stuff like that. So it's kind of the same thing in sports betting. And I mean, basically like poker, sports betting, trading, I don't know, I kind of view them all the same is like sports books are just like market makers. And let's like go through an example, right? So does everyone know what minus 110 means? Does anyone not know? Do you know? Yeah.
I think so.
What? No, I won't put you on the spot. It means you have to bet 110 bucks to win 100, right? So basically like you've all probably seen this if you bet on sports, like this is the most common market offered for spreads, for totals, for whatever. Like if we think the game has a, you know, 50-50 chance, if the sports book thinks the game has a 50-50 chance of going over 52.5, in, you know, sports leagues, as much as they say it, everyone I've met who works at a sports league, they love gambling. Like this is so good for the WNBA that there are so many degenerates in this country who love sports, who love to gamble because it gets them a lot of viewership, a lot of sales. I mean, it's one of the reasons like I think sports teams are doing pretty well. But if we think the game has like a 50-50 shot of going over or under 52.5, and there's a lot of cappers who will tell you they know the game's going over or under, but the truth is like with markets is it's always uncertain like what's going to happen. Someone could get injured, they could whatever. Like nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. Everything's a probability, which I think is a valuable way to think. But like, okay, so like if the sports book sets the odds here, this is the over 52.5, like traditional sports books, market makers, right? They basically just take a bunch of bets. Like if you bet 110 on the over, I bet 110 on the under. One of us loses 110 and the sports book pays out 100, they keep 10 bucks. So this is great for a sports book. And then they're just smart, right? Like let's say, I don't know, like all the smart people who have actually been winning bettors on the sports book, if everyone starts betting the over, like the book isn't stupid. Like a lot of people think these markets are static. The books are extremely sophisticated in terms of pricing at this point. FanDuel, DraftKings, like not perfect. There's still a lot of alpha, but they're not, like it's not like they just like don't know what's happening. Like you see some people say, oh, it's snowing, like I'm gonna bet the under, and it's like, yeah, like everyone knows. And it's the same thing with markets. A lot of people think they have an edge, but like they don't. And that's why they try trading and lose a ton of money trading. And it's probably like, trading's horrible. I mean, it's very addictive for young people. Like, I don't know if it's like a net positive on the world, but but like whatever, a lot of people lose a lot of money on Robinhood, which is, you know, a lot of people, well, I would say what's interesting about trading and gambling is there's something where it's very easy to get started and think you know what you're doing when almost certainly you don't know what you're doing. And people lose a lot of money. Like you can lose hundreds of thousands of dollars trading options, and there's tons of people who have, and I've met in like the blink of an eye. But regardless, the books are smart, right? So if everyone's betting the over, the books are gonna say like, okay, like maybe we had it wrong, it's not 50-50, maybe like it's a little more, maybe it's 52%, and they'll just like take bets and like adjust. If there's an injury, they'll pause the markets and like readjust. Like these books are like very smart in terms of that. Or they'll move the line up to like whatever, 53.5. Right? And they're constantly reacting to betting volume from smart customers. So like it very much is exactly like the stock market, right? If everyone has demand for a stock and smarter counterparties, stock price is gonna go up. If everyone wants to sell, it's gonna go down. And like markets in general are fair, which I think is like something a lot of people get wrong about sports betting is like if someone's out, like if someone misses a game, or if Anthony Edwards is out, people are like, oh, well, like now I know I should bet on Jaden McDaniels. It's like this, it's all basically priced into the market if it's public. Maybe not, that's not completely fair, but like that's the reason most people lose at gambling is obviously they think they have an edge. And same thing with trading, they think they have an edge. They think they know something other people don't know, but like they're just paying the juice over and over and over again, and the market makers, the sports books, I guess, are making all the money. But yeah, so if you like sports, if you like data, I mean, that's a great place to work. And now, all of these companies are market making on Kalshi and Polymarket. So if you are betting on Kalshi and Polymarket, you have a very good chance of you're trading against one of the top hedge funds in the world. Citadel Securities have a Kalshi Polymarket test? You don't know. Okay. And let's do some math. So, well, let's just see who gets this right. Like, I think like everything, like odds are probability. When I see the Super Bowl odds, I'm like, okay, like the market's saying the Patriots are whatever, 30% to win the game. And then kind of like as injuries and weather changes, it's like interesting to track. So let's say like some team's plus 400 and the opposing quarterback gets injured and they go down to like plus 100, you know, that means now it's a 50-50 game, right? You only have to win half your bets if you're betting 100 to win 100. Like that's kind of how markets work and how you can think about, I guess, odds with relation to probability. But obviously, like everything happens over a large sample size, whether you're profitable or not, which is pretty obvious. But like, I think it's easy to win a trade, which is why a lot of people try trading. It's very hard to make money trading long term. And I would say it's relatively similar for sports betting. It's very similar for poker. Because most sports bettors, like, they don't kind of understand the math behind it. And yeah, so I guess we can talk about gambling strategies, and then maybe we can talk about like the industry and like opportunities and like what companies are doing well and who's making money and stuff like that. So what was I gonna say? So I guess like, does anyone have a cool gambling strategy they use? Does anyone actually think they'd be profitable over a sample of 1,000 bets? No? You probably would be. You're a trader. I promise you could.
I can tell you a strategy I heard about.
What?
Like someone told me that on Kalshi what they'll do is they'll buy, like there'll be a probability of a player getting a touchdown on the team for football. And they'll wait during the game for that team to get into the red zone. And say they bought at like 3%, the probability would jump 6% while they're in the red zone and they'll sell.
Yeah, that's not, yeah, maybe. Maybe, I don't know. I don't know if I buy into that. So like here we can see, I guess like the first thing to mention is all these guys are essentially the same, right? They just like take bets and pay them out, but they're all called different things, right? So like, I guess like, you know, Kalshi and Polymarket, who are currently offering the best prices, like they're peer-to-peer. So you're betting against other people, but a lot of people think that means like other people, like you're not betting against, like you're betting against a market maker who is probably very smart and is, you know, a quant who's paid a lot of money at like a trading firm, which again, doesn't mean you can't win, but like those are probably the hardest books to beat for that very reason. Whereas like sports books, I don't even know what that is. It's Polymarket too. But sports books, it's just like versus the house. But all of these books, for whatever reason, in casinos, is like the reason there are so many is they all set their own prices, right? Like, which is, I don't know, it's a little weird if you think about it. because like it doesn't really make sense. Like the way I always thought about it when I learned it at SIG is like, you know, I don't know, like, are there really people who just use one sports book and are placing this bet at plus 488, betting 100 to win 488 as opposed to 567 on Polymarket? But like, most people don't care that deeply about sports betting or what prices they're getting. They're not price conscious. But anyways, books have different prices, which is kind of cool because they all want to be unique. We don't need hundreds of sports books. We don't need hundreds of sports books if, you know, they all have the exact same odds. So that's basically the point. So I guess what's the first strategy that people use to make money is called arbitrage. Now, why are there very few full-time sports bettors? Is basically all of these books will cut you off if you are winning too much. It's not super fair, and it's honestly one of the reasons why financial markets are a lot more maybe fair, because sports books, kind of similar to a restaurant, they don't have to serve you, and they will make the decision at some point. DraftKings, FanDuel, you can look it up. Like all of these books, if you're a winner over 500 bets, they'll just like slowly reduce your bet size. It's just kind of how sports books work in general, is they'll let you start betting, let's say $1,000 a play, and then if you're smart and you're winning, they'll like slowly drop that. And they'll have lower betting limits for player props, more niche markets like the WNBA, which is, you know, a growing sport in popularity, especially, you know, one of the many reasons from sports betting and being in the summer when there's not much going on. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, so I just had a quick question. It seems like with OddsJam, by having like a site like this, it would lead to all these sports books just converging to one specific, because as soon as one sports book or one site would see that it's like a bit of an outlier, it would adjust it. And I know they are
True.
everywhere, but I feel like wouldn't having a site like OddsJam in the long run kind of lead to it ceasing to exist because everything converges to one? Or do these books really just back their math and back their own numbers?
I would say there's a variety of reasons books may have different prices. The first one being, for example, I'll give you a real example, is some of these books are only legal, like Hard Rock, it's not legal here, it's legal in Florida. So they get more betting volume on Florida teams, so they typically offer worse prices on Florida teams because like it's such a weird, fragmented, regulated market. It's the same thing, like some of these books are legal in other countries. And like some of these books are only in one state. There's sports books that are only, I bet none of you even know what, I mean, can anyone, if you know what this book is, I'll give you $20. What's the X? Yeah, exactly. Like saving my money here. But it's called Bet Parks. It's like, it's basically only in Pennsylvania and I mean, whatever. So I also think, but that's a great point. And a lot of these books too, they don't care. And by that I mean, it's like having an all-you-can-eat buffet and worrying, what about all the people who come in and just like hoard the food? And it's like, well, if you can just cut them off and say you can't come back, they don't care about that problem. So the nice thing for sports books is, is they always have the trump card that they don't have to let you play. Yo.
Oh, just like with respect to this, so one of my friends and I had set up something very similar where we basically wrote a script to compare like odds from different sports books. We were doing it on like receiving yards.
Yeah.
And we found that over the last couple of seasons we had like a 33% ROI on NFL data.
There we go. How many bets? How big's your sample size?
We had 450 something.
Oh, so pretty.
But we weren't able to.
What were you betting on? What book?
So we were comparing across like 8 books, and we weren't able to put actual money into it because the place we were getting odds from, we were using something called Odds API.
The cheap one.
It wasn't updating as quickly as. Do you know a better one we could try?
Try OddsJams.
Is it like?
I'll get you. I'll get.
Move as quickly as the sports books move.
Yeah, it's pretty. It's real time. Millions of odds a second.
The class get free access, right?
Yeah, sure. No. Like if people actually care, sure, it's not a problem. But what I was gonna say is, wait, continue. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, I mean that was kind of all I wanted.
That was it?
Said like we tried this idea out and it seemed to work super well.
Yeah, no, exactly. There are exploitable edges, and it's just data. So I guess, like, long story short, all these books have different odds. They don't really care that much about pricing because they can just cut you off if you're winning. Just as an example, I'm curious. Hopefully the site works. So like here, it's like, wide prices. I guess you can get down like a K, but like, I don't know. So it's just not as sustainable. But what was I saying is, anyways, what was I saying is, basically like the first strategy that people use to make money is, I guess, called arbitrage. So what does that mean, right? Like arbitrage is like a financial term. I think it's how Sam Bankman-Fried got rich. Then he went to jail. So maybe that's not a good example, but let me get rid of this, unfortunately. But like,
you have today's answer.
So I guess like all these books set different odds. A lot of them don't like really care about, they just like don't really care if you make money, considering they can just like ban you or limit you. They can just limit your bet sizes or ban you. They can do either. It's completely legal. But basically, like what happens sometimes, and it's rare, is books will have such different odds that you can bet the over, you can bet the under, and you can make like a guaranteed profit, right? So like, for example, these two teams are playing. One of them, obviously, there's no ties in cricket.
No, not in this format.
Yeah, so there's no ties. One of these two teams has to win. So like, I mean, super simple example. Let's say like, I don't know, New Zealand's star player gets injured and New Zealand's star player gets injured, but like DraftKings is slow to adjust because again, they don't really care since they can just cut people off if you're picking them off and like making a ton of money long term. So let's say like New Zealand, best player gets injured. So let's say, anyways, whatever. Let's say for whatever reason, the market's moving and you can get like plus 110 on DraftKings, on New Zealand, and then we got England, and let's just say like whatever, you can get plus 110 on BetMGM, right? Like what you could do as a sports bettor is you just like bet this for $100 before the odds change, and then you bet this for $100 before the odds change. One bet will win, one bet will lose, and you'll turn $100 into 110. And what's cool about this, because it may not seem like a big deal, like there's already arbitrage bets for like on Kalshi and Poly market. You see it every day on Twitter, like, wow, it's so crazy. For like the 2028 presidential election, like if you take AOC to win versus not win, like those are very common. But obviously what's not attractive about that is the election is like 3 years away or whatever, 2 years away, or when is the, I don't even know. A while away, but 2028. So people like that as an example, and it's great marketing for Kalshi and Poly market. But, obviously what's not attractive about it is it's just super far away. It's not even like you'd be better off putting your money in, treasuries or whatever. So I guess like what's cool about this is this game is tomorrow at 5:30. So by the time you get up, like you'll have your $10 back, right? With a profit, right? You'll turn your 100 into 110, which is crazy, right? Or I guess you're turning your $200 total bet into $10 in profit, right? Yeah. So what's crazy about that is you're getting ROI sometimes of like 5-10% before, in like 12 hours or however long, 24 hours until a game ends, which is crazy if you think about it. And so that's like the first strategy, arbitrage, it's called. And yeah, you guys should try it out if you like money. So let's see here what we got going on. So, yeah, we do. So like BetMGM is known to be, as an example, the dumbest sports book in the world. They will cut you off very quickly, but you can typically take them, in my opinion, for like 15, probably like 15 grand if you have some capital to put into it, but you got to do it quick because they will cut you off. So I did this, this was my side hustle when I was a trader, is we'd all just like sit at work, and when the market's slow, we would just like start betting, and people would be writing crappy scrapers. So then we just like obviously built a company around it. And yeah, and then I think people started reaching out and being like, we don't want your tools, we want your data, right? Like a media company, like we want to add widgets to our articles to show odds, or real sports, or people like that. Like we just want the data, we don't want to use your site. So then we added a B2B arm. But what was I going to say is that's cool. So do you know how PrizePicks makes money? How much money do you think PrizePicks' average profit margin is? For every $100 bet on PrizePicks, if you had to guess how much money you think they're keeping in profit on average on PrizePicks?
10%.
Anyone else?
15.
20. 30.
Probably closer to 20. What about, I would say it depends, probably sports books like FanDuel, it depends. -110 is roughly 5%. So 5% is kind of common for main markets. On PrizePicks, it depends on the user, but it's easily 20% plus, right? And in profit margin, but they make it very confusing to understand that, which is why they've been very successful. Kalshi Polymarket, Kalshi's fees, what is Kalshi's fee for most bets? Does anyone use Kalshi?
It's 3.25, I think.
3.25. So, exchanges are better, but again, they're just tough to beat. So here you can see an ARB. This one is between an exchange. This is a peer-to-peer betting exchange. So you could get down $800. You can get plus money on both sides. Basically the example we went through. But again, FanDuel will start to lower and lower, although FanDuel's not as bad as MGM will give you a 33-cent max bet size after a few months of using it if you're betting smart. So what are we talking about? Oh, PrizePicks. So the way PrizePicks makes money is, what's PrizePicks payouts for 2-pick entries?
3.
Yeah, you know your stuff. So basically what PrizePicks does is they just set random lines where the line is supposed to be 50-50 to go over or under. So LeBron James, how many points is LeBron averaging per game?
20.
20?
22.
Really? Damn. So let's say LeBron's line, he is old and he's still doing that, man. So let's say LeBron's line is 21.5. That's his over-under on PrizePicks. And what's SGA scoring this season? 30s?
31 maybe.
So let's say SGA's line, which is insane, is 31.5, right? So this is basically okay, if you were to bet over the course of the season or on a random game, if the sports books, if PrizePicks is setting this line, it's 50-50, right? To go over or under, basically, that's PrizePicks' goal. So the way PrizePicks works is you just pick 2 things and there are no odds. You're just getting a 3x payout. So there's no numbers. This is numbers. What PrizePicks did, and they were just bought for $4 billion, is they said, nah, we don't need numbers. A lot of people don't understand numbers. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna let people pick 2 things, and then we're gonna give them a 3x payout on their money if they get it right. So assuming these lines are 50-50, who's good at math? What's the probability you win both bets if we take, let's say we take them both to go over? What's the probability we win both bets if truly PrizePicks is setting lines properly and this is 50-50?
25%.
Exactly. So 25% of the time, we're gonna win a 3x payout. What does a 3x payout mean? You're betting 100 to profit how much?
200 profit.
200. Yeah. 300 in payout, but you put down 100, so it's only 200 profit. So like 25% of the time, you make 200 bucks in profit. Someone do the math for me. And 75% of the time, you lose your stake of 100 bucks. So like, how does that look? I mean, what? So, man, I feel like I'm in middle school. So basically, like whatever, they're holding 25% of your money, and that's only for a two-man. As you add in more legs, it gets crazy if you don't know what you're doing. And also, even if these lines aren't 50-50, they don't really care. Like they have a big buffer built in, right? If they're holding 25% of money, that's a ton, man. You can build a $4 billion company pretty quickly if you get people using your PrizePicks when you're taking 25% of everyone's money. But that's like kind of how they work. And again, most people like don't know because you just look at it and you're like, oh, I just like select two people and I get a 3x payout. But like once you start to break down the math, it's like, dang, like they're kind of printing over here. So basically on PrizePicks, maybe there are some PrizePicks bets. Who is this new guy? So basically on PrizePicks, like what you want to do is you want to pick like if you go through the math behind PrizePicks, all their payouts, you'll see 5-pick entries are optimal, and you're basically getting minus 119 odds is essentially like if you were to convert it to sports books. So you need to win like 54% of your individual squares to be profitable. So like what a lot of people do now, and like a reason people pay us, is like you can compare PrizePicks to like other books. So like this really smart peer-to-peer book where probably SIG or Citadel is market making this line, like this guy's a big underdog to go over, so we want to take his under, right? Like, so that's kind of like how people use data in sports betting, and like, this is what I don't really care. I mean, I don't own the company anymore, but like, this is like a big reason people paid us, is like they want to compare all these books and have different tools, because what this is implying is like, okay, like this guy, that's a lot of liquidity, right? 5.9K on his over at plus 133. So like there's some market maker at SIG or Citadel or who knows, like some other trading firm who's pretty confident, you know, he's more likely to go under. So like that's like one example of how people kind of used us. So what else did we say? Oh, I guess the last thing is, you know, how much time we got? I'll leave a little bit of time for question and answer. We can talk about these companies, man. So like, let's say like we believe Kalshi and Polymarket are, let's say we believe FanDuel, it's one of the biggest sports books, right? It's probably the biggest gaming company there is. Still more valuable than Kalshi and Polymarket combined. Let's say they say, you know, I don't know, like we have Rockets, Lakers, and let's say they're saying the game's 50-50, right? Like basically like they're saying, I mean, 50-50 if there was no VIG would be plus 100 plus 100. Right? Like that would be fair, where you're betting 100 to win 100 if they're 50-50, but obviously these books need to make money, so they add in their like little spread that we discussed. So they'd make it minus 110, minus 110. So basically like if we say, okay, FanDuel's the source of truth, both of these teams are 50% to win. Again, there's a lot of assumptions here that FanDuel's the smartest sports book, but let's say like, okay, both these teams are 50-50 to win. Then maybe there's no arbitrage, but maybe BetMGM, which is the dumbest sports book in the world, has the Rockets at plus 110. So like, even though there's like no arb, I can bet 100 to win 110 on the Rockets on MGM, but I have to bet 110 to win 100 on the Lakers. So like, that's a 0% arb. Basically, like if we know that FanDuel's the source of truth, we can be like, okay, half the time we win 110 bucks, the other half of the time we lose 100 bucks. Our edge is what? Yeah, that's my trader. You're definitely a trader. There we go, fast math. But yeah, so like that's kind of like another way people bet. And then there's middles. Again, like middles, I would say you can get creative, and there's sometimes very interesting things to think about and like model, and you can even use ChatGPT if it's not clear, but like sometimes I just like gut feel it. When I was sports betting a lot. Yeah, I was betting a lot. But what were we talking about? Let's say like, who's your favorite wide receiver?
JSN.
Who?
JSN.
JSN, perfect. So let's say like DraftKings has his line at 78 half receiving yards, which honestly seems low for him. Typical -110, -110. And let's say FanDuel opens him. A lot of good line discrepancies occur when books first launch. Let's say FanDuel just has him like 10 yards higher, right? So like, what could you do? What would the bet be? Like what could you bet to make this interesting?
Bet over on 78, under on 88.
Exactly. So you just bet the over here, and then even if you're paying the juice, right? I don't know, for like, here's actually where historical data is valuable. Kind of like I said, okay, like what percentage of NFL games have ended by 2 versus 3 points? It's like, sometimes like this gut math, you probably know from trading, like it's useful to have a sense of like how these things diverge. So like, I don't know what it is. My gut tells me for a receiver with a line around 80, the probability he falls within this range. He's not getting 500 receiving yards. He's not going to have 0. So the probability he falls within this range is probably going to be like 14%. So this would be like the fastest no-brainer bet of all time. I would have done my money on it if I could have taken it. And so that's like a middle. But again, you need to have some rough sense of probabilities, because like, if the middle was, I mean, because like, again, in football, there's some numbers where it's like the difference between 4.5 and 5.5 doesn't really matter. So even if you have to pay the juice or the vig, it's like not really worth it, because most games don't end by 5 points. So you have to have a sense of like the probabilities. So I think having an understanding of like probability, expected value, like it's just really valuable for like your career. And also a lot of this stuff, it relates like this, it's very similar stuff, I feel like, between oh, dang, I had an example on the screen. I was supposed to go through more stuff, but that's okay. I feel like it's pretty cool and valuable to have an understanding of like expected value and stuff, because it just applies to so many things in life. And uncertain information and an understanding of probability. Like there's people who make a lot of money trading and in sports betting just from like even having a sense of how odds relate. Yo.
Wait, what was your strategy?
I did all of it. Man, if you look me up on YouTube, I was betting tens of thousands of dollars every single day on live streams. Hundreds of thousands some days. I mean, seriously, I was all over all these books. I would do it all. I've used over 100 sports books. I've used every single book here except for Polymarket. By the time the company was acquired, and my fiance wants me to gamble a little less, maybe. Yeah, so Polymarket I didn't use yet. Not much.
How long do these arbitrage opportunities normally stick around for?
Depends how profitable it is.
For something like this, 6%? Like, what would you guess?
So it depends on 2 things. 1, how big is the ARB? 2, how hard does the sportsbook limit? How quick do they cut people off? So in the case of DraftKings, they're very fast. So they don't really care that much about prices. This could be up for 3 minutes. ProfitX is a peer-to-peer betting exchange though, so if someone slams out all the liquidity at the given price, the price will change. So sometimes it's a couple minutes and sometimes it's not. And it's the same thing in trading. Like, I don't think a lot of people understand, maybe you thought this or maybe you didn't, like why do they ask you mental math questions in like trading interviews?
Just like processing quicker things. I've never.
Oh yeah, but did you ever like think that? Like, why am I practicing 81 times 47 or something? Yeah, okay, anyways. Well, I always wondered why. But the thing is like there were times as a trader we'd get a call, especially during COVID when it's busy, and it's like, yo, do you want this trade? Here's the price. And it's like something complex and you're trying to price it, and it's like, okay, we're gonna start calling other people, and like you gotta make things fast. And it's the same thing in sports betting. It's like a lot of people, like, you should be able to mental math these things. How much should I bet? And it was the same thing as a trader. Like, there were times I was like, oh my gosh, I just missed the best trade of my life. And you get back on the phone and I'm like, yo, yeah, I'll take that trade. And it's like, bro, it's been gone for like 4 minutes. You're an idiot and you passed it up. And it's like, oh, yikes, my boss not gonna be happy. But yeah, also my co-founder went here. So that was cool. Parlay equals bad is like common advice. But the thing is like for a parlay, it's just like a combination of bets. So like most sports bettors lose money. So let's say the average ROI, which is probably somewhat right, is negative 5% on straight bets. For a 2-leg parlay, you know, it's going to be negative 10%. For a 3-leg parlay, negative 15%. 4-leg parlay, negative 20%. But on the other hand, if you are profitable and you have a 5% ROI for a 2-pick parlay, your ROI actually increases in terms of percentage, but the variance increases because you need multiple outcomes to win. So it's like, it's basically you're betting on long shots more. I actually have some friends from the sports betting industry who they basically just bet on like golf outrights, longer shot things where you're betting maybe $10,000 to win $250,000. And like, their hit rate isn't anywhere close to like, you know, not that good, but if they can win one thing a year or whatever, or 2 a year, they make pretty good money, like betting on long shots. Yeah.
That was kind of similar to when I was doing PrizePicks, because like when I was just like going on YouTube videos, they say if you're going to do PrizePicks, then for a long term you only do 6 legs, and you have to
5 and 6 pick flex. That's probably my YouTube video. Who are you watching on YouTube?
I mean, everyone said
I invented that.
Sorry.
Probably the first person to ever say that. But yeah. So, but yeah, 5 and 6 man flex, and it doesn't feel good. Like the thing is it doesn't feel good because you lose. Like it doesn't feel good because you usually lose to bet on like long shots. But like there's, I mean, a lot of people, as you know, in trading who take like long shot bets, and when they're right, they're right. Like asymmetric bets. Asymmetric bets are the best type of bets. Like what is it? I don't know, I'm trying to think of the good examples. I mean, I guess the best one is the 0809, like the Big Short, right? Like very asymmetric bet. He's paying like not small premiums, but you know, a little bit of money for if the housing market collapses, he gets returns of like 50 to 100x, if not higher, I think, for a lot of these derivative products. So I think like that's interesting as well, is there's definitely opportunities there, but yeah. Any other questions about,
Since like the popularization of OddsJam, have you seen a decrease in the arbitrage opportunities? Like, is that a big issue or not really?
Maybe a little bit, but I would say what's been actually very good is a lot more companies have started. Like in sports betting, Kalshi, Polymarket, you probably didn't hear about them until maybe 3 years ago. ProfitX, Novig, there's a lot more platforms, but definitely it OddsJam and just like the more math-based gamblers as a whole have changed how quickly things move. If there's a really good arbitrage bet between Kalshi and Polymarket or Kalshi and FanDuel, there's probably 1,000 people trying to bet it at the second it shows up on the board. Maybe not actually, but first 10 seconds. Not specifically on OddsJam. People have their own bots or scrapers, or they try to do that. I literally think I've had 20 people DM me about a Kalshi Polymarket ARB bot. And because I think it went viral, some like big one on the Logan Paul fight where some market making firm messed up and flipped the odds. I don't know, something like that. It was crazy, but obviously that's something very rare.
Where'd you get the data from working with OddsJam? Do you have like super sophisticated scrapers?
Yeah. Scrape the shit out of these books, man. But we ended up, over time, it becomes a bit of like horse trading, where books are like, stop scraping us and you have a lot of traffic. So we'll just like give you our feed. There is a little bit of horse trading in the industry. And we lose books. I mean, from time to time, it's like we will, yeah, like, I don't know, our scrapers will get blocked and they'll adjust or they'll up security. But like most books don't care. For, again, the reason they can just limit everyone smart. Like if you think about it from a sportsbook's perspective, it's the best type of business. You get 1,000 customers, maybe, I mean, what percentage of this country is smart? Not that much. Maybe 5% of them are profitable bettors, 50 people. You just limit them over the course of, you know, a few months. They just want the volume. Yeah. And I would say there's always interesting things like this. Has anyone heard of Better? Has anyone heard of Jake Paul? Yeah, okay. So his like betting app, they launched, and sometimes like my biggest winning day was 60K in a day off of a couple of bets where I put down like 3. It was crazy return, and obviously like there's huge luck involved. But Jake Paul's app, they launched this new app. They weren't limiting people, and now they do, but they were pushing out all these they were trying to add like higher level payouts, and they completely messed up the they completely messed up the pricing of what things should have been at. So basically they were giving you, I may botch exactly what this is, they were giving you any player period in the world, if you bet on them MLB season, to hit a home run at like plus 400 odds. Right? There are a lot of nights where Aaron Judge and Shohei Ohtani are plus 150. Right? They're 40% to go yard. They're going yard basically every other game. And they just like, this works for most players because most players don't hit home runs that often. But for Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge, you can't be giving people plus 400. And they both went yard that night, which was a sick experience. And then I had a Corona. What?
2 minutes.
Okay, any other questions? Sports betting, sports. Go ahead.
Do you do any of like the daily fantasy sports, or is it mainly just sort of
Like PrizePicks or like DraftKings fantasy?
like the DraftKings fantasy?
Not really. I would say like, I was always interested in it, but it's more complicated. It's harder to get alpha, I feel like. And also in terms of building like I was a trader. Traders love, in general, sports betting. So that's kind of how I got hooked on sports betting. Also, I would say in terms of like building in the industry, there's so many fantasy products. It's been around much longer, whereas sports betting, I feel like we kind of had the opportunity to maybe do something new.
Are you doing any of this now still? Are you betting? Or are you?
I still bet from time to time I still bet from time to time, but like I'm not like, I'm no longer like at the company, but I still bet for fun sometimes. Like Super Bowl, especially like Super Bowl, like, but I would say it's not the same level of like, it's tied to my business where like I'm betting on the NBA every night and doing content and following it closely and have like a, you know, like I would say like we tried to stay very close to users in the business and like, yeah, so it's like very close to sports as a whole, which like is fun, but at the same time, a lot. Once you like sell a business, you don't want to do the same thing twice.
From personal experience, speaking from personal experience.
Yeah. Any other questions? Anyways, you all can email me anytime, text me anytime about sports betting or whatever. And yeah, thank you.